Hello everyone, hi, this is Utsav Mathur. I'm the founder and CEO at GMetri. At GMetri, we work at the intelligence of 3D and AI, 3D and intelligence. And that's something we're taking forward, through a multitude of product-based solutions. Our solutions include DG2N, which is a digital twin solution that works specifically for warehousing and manufacturing, Fruit Salad AI, which is an AI-powered learning engine in 3D, and GMetri XR, which is a no-code toolkit that helps you build experiences within the world of 3D. So we work with a product focused approach at the intersection of 3D and AI. Yeah, I think it's been a fairly long and interesting, way of looking at a lot of things because now we have the perspective. Because initially the company had started in 2017. At that time, what the focus was essentially marrying computational design, marrying intelligence into, at that time, XR, right, or extended reality, basically immersive reality that could work on multiple domains. With that, the interesting thing that happened was we realized very quickly that there was a huge market for it. I mean, very early, just within our first year of working, we had very good names on the board like Bosch, Big Basket, who were all kind of doing, fairly interesting stuff on the platform. So that made us realize that there is something really good. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about that frequently is that we were EBITDA plus, within 6 to 8 months of starting the company, right? And those are usually very good signs. Of course, we realized very quickly that the technology we bring to the table, there is a way to scale it up drastically by converting our technology, our proprietary technology that we've been building along the way, to a SaaSified product. So that journey we started, again in 2019 when we had a fair number of clients, when we understood the different nuances of everything. So we started building the product and we built it very, very closely with our clients. And as we were kind of, on that journey, I think there were a lot of interesting things that we realized. We realized how do we kind of go ahead and segment the market. So GMetri XR, which was a core product that we had, was essentially the Canva of the metaverse. It's a really simplistic way to create 3D experiences in a space that was dominated by two game engines, Unity and Unreal. And it was, I think we took the task upon ourselves to create an alternative to Unity and Unreal that works for the use cases that businesses are looking for. And I think that hit the spot because we started getting clients like PayPal, Amazon, Diageo, Abinbev. I mean, we have, we kind of added a lot of people during that, right? Team sizes started growing. I think we had, added two very core members to our team at that point, and then we continued to grow. But at the same time, the model that kind of came across, when GMetri was growing, ended up being a lot of large enterprises that would essentially pick up a license to our solution, but also would depend on us to kind of come out and create. So it became a mix of software and services. It became very interesting. And I think that part of the journey was fairly compelling and also challenging to navigate. Because on one side, it's not services revenues good. Services is what, at that stage kept the lights on. But at the same time, and the software was doing good as well. We made sure to bundle our licenses with everything. But it's a really interesting mix to see how the services and software and that side, could kind of balance itself. Because on one side, you have all the, VCs telling you that, look, we need to focus more on product revenue. That needs to, that is a true marker of it. And that's an absolutely correct understanding of a scalable SaaS business. But within that space, being emerging technology, right? I mean, there are a few things that also need you to have that services arm. So balancing these two things, right? The scalability with the amount of servicing that is required per client. I think those were some fairly interesting challenges. We started GMetri in the US. We started realizing that there are a fair number of US clients, became a US headquartered entity. We started working very strongly, with counterparts in the US who would come out and do sales of our product within that entire domain. And actually, some of the coolest things that happened was some of the people who were essentially selling our product in the US ended up liking it so much that they invested back into the company. So we did a round, we did a couple of rounds where we had a lot of people participating, and it was very good to see participation from people who were also selling that product. And that, I think, worked very well from us because now for us, because the network that we kind of have built has them working for more than just a cut of sales or anything like that, because they believe in the story. Because when you have partners that truly believe in the product beyond just taking it to the market, I think that's one of the main strategic things that helped grow that. I think that was one of the most interesting parts of what was kind of happening. Going forward, also, we started seeing certain sub segments within the user base of geometry and started finding certain trends on it, right? So you start to find that, look, there are three domains in which geometry XR is wildly popular, right? One is enterprise, the other is all of them being in enterprise. One is e-commerce, one is digital twins, and you kind of, and one is learning and development pretty across the organization. You start to see that these are the three use cases that are building out. So I think DigiTwin is based on a very simple premise, right? The premise is that humans are very good at reading patterns in 3D. We understand patterns, we understand why things are going wrong, but often a lot of data that is being generated today is hidden in Excel sheets, right? So let's look at a manufacturing hub, or let's look at a warehouse. But largely, there are clients who have multiple facilities spread across the country and a central leadership that sits out of one office, let's say in Mumbai. And you are looking at the operational efficacy of each and every one of these plants from a central standpoint. Without really visiting the plant, you don't get a really good idea of what I can do to make it better. And I think a digital twin comes in and bridges that gap. It does exactly what a visit to that site would do while you're sitting in the comfort of your own office. It integrates the data, it integrates the machine, the state of the machines, what is it doing. In the case of a warehouse, where is your material, what shelf is it on, how is it moving fast or slow? And then adds the power, leveraging AI models in terms of telling you that what could have gotten better. It analyzes it for you, and it allows you to then run simulations. So what if I do that? What if I change the layout? What if I add another machine? Does it solve my bottleneck? Does it create more problems? What are the labor and manpower I now need, right? Am I overstaffed? Am I understaffed? So it comes out and it gives you a playground to also then simulate and change this reality. So it reflects your reality, but it also allows you to then create tweaks in that reality and see what is the impact of that tweak on my entire thing. And that's a digital twin. So it's not just a data twin, it's a simulation twin, it's a process twin. You can come out and do a lot of interesting things. And I think it's very compelling, because a lot of companies would spend a lot of money in testing products out, right? So if somebody says, hey, there is a process that I can, currently it's taking you 20 minutes, buy my product for X dollars, and that 20 minutes will become 2 minutes. So what would happen today? People would invest in a pilot, right? They would say, okay, you do it, prove it to me. But here's the interesting thing. You can now do this simulation entirely on our platform. Realize if that changing that 20 to 5 actually has any impact or no, right? Does it really change the overall output of that facility or no? Does it really change the throughput? So I mean, those are the kind of simulations that you can start to run on the platform. And I think it's it's creating waves in the way people are looking at their facilities. It's changing the nature of people who now have information about their facilities and the way they read and interpret this information. So I think that's the DG2N product. It essentially brings all of the data to you in a format that mimics or even then betters the ability to actually go there and visualize all of it. So that's the entire premise behind DG2N. Mind you, by this time, we're at a scale where, over, 60, 70,000 experiences have been built on our platform. We're serving close to a user base of 1 million people who are experiencing, things which are built on geometry. This is the time that we went to, our experiences were showcased on Sundance. We signed university partnerships with, great, with Ivy League universities like Johns Hopkins, who would teach this software further to their students as a part of the curriculum. And at this time, I think we were starting to realize that the use cases that were bringing the money home were getting fine-tuned, right? And I think with that, we decided to also create a sub-product or address particular sub-segment. And this was the entire learning journey, right? So learning was something that was very popular and ended up, building on top of that. I tried to actually relocate in Feb 2020. I land in the US and I think I was there for 3 days and then there was a lockdown, right? And what we realized, well, there was a plus and there was a minus. Now, what was the plus? I think there were a lot of logical shifts in the way people were working and people were looking at work. For example, just to sign a contract earlier, it was a fair expectation for a large client to expect you to be in the same room, right? Those expectations dropped. I think from a product perspective, we were talking about more, we were adding a lot of value to the virtual experience of, knowledge sharing, being together, collaboration, right? Geometry was a great tool that was enabling all of these things, and therefore also a certain segment of the clients clicked. For example, let's take the PayPal example. We built the PayPal pavilion, which was a virtual headquarters that lasted them not only through the pandemic but also beyond. And that entire brief, which was obviously there before the pandemic, got accelerated, and we got some really cool deployments out there that touched each and every PayPal employee, at a stage. So it was from our company's perspective. The pandemic did, also did boost a lot of things, but it also changed the dynamics in interesting ways. But I think it was, for our, as far as our company is concerned, it had a lot of interesting things. So I think it also changed the way and paved the way for us becoming a remote first organization. If today was day one, I think, I don't know, because it's a trick question. Do I know about how things would pan out from an external standpoint or not? If I did, then I think the way that you would work, I would work differently, is when we created Geometry XR. The industry was, or the number of people creating were small enough for us to create a very horizontal product, right? Because Geometry could serve a variety of use cases, a lot like, a game engine, a lot like a lot of things. It was spread across horizontally because the market was a particular size, right? As the market grew, now the niche use cases start to kind of come as the market kind of grows. We later identified these trends and then said, look, let us start to create these verticals. But I think the one thing that I would have done very differently is to kind of carve out these verticals a little more, in a little more lucid fashion, and focus on a niche that kind of works a little more focused on each, rather than having something that is horizontal. I think that is one thing that I would have kind of done. Of course, we have corrected, we have come out and we have done that, and now I think one of the main examples is our digital twins product, right? As we were going along, we were very lucky to have some people who truly believed in us, some investors who really saw what we were trying to do, whether it's through from our network or beyond. I think we were able to meet some amazing people who've been instrumental in guiding us and taking this to the next level. And I think one of the core things that's important when you do that is you work with a mission-driven kind of an approach to everything. I think it wasn't just about that, okay, we want to, make a product and address a market. I think, the story largely was trying to democratize the world of immersive reality, right? And at that time you had the word metaverse being used around it, but we were there trying to build a collaborative three-dimensional internet from the outset. In a way, that's still what we're doing, right? I mean, when you go forward and say that, look, here is a toolkit that is democratizing the way people build content building in 3D in, I would say, even 2020 is very similar to how websites were built, the early 2000s. So when you wanted to make a website, you would kind of go out and hire a developer. I'm talking about the early days of the internet, and the developer would create the website for you. But today, 80%, 90% of the internet is actually built on do-it-yourself websites. People come up, people post their own, right? It's such a vibrant community, the internet. And everybody's creating content on their own. Everybody today is a content generator, right? Everybody's a content creator. So that transition, I think, was very beautiful, and it got together what we, the vibrant internet as we know it today. But the same transition hasn't yet happened for 3D experiences, which I think, was a very, compelling use case that, look, we want to democratize the immersive web, exactly how the internet was democratized. So I think when you work with a mission-focused statement, that kind of talks about it rather than just, as a product, it makes people understand what really you are going towards, right? And I think our journey has been all about that. about showcasing the true vision, which is how 3D truly integrates into our daily lives. Largely, like we talk about our journey, we talk about multiple products, but at the base of it, it is all the same. We are largely working on two-dimensional interfaces while talking about three-dimensional things, right? Humans are very, visual, in terms of the way we think, in terms of the way we understand, in terms of the way we recognize patterns. But almost everything we do today is on a screen, right? So I mean, that breaking that barrier of getting 3D into things, whether it's through digital twins of your factories or warehouses, where you can start to visualize a lot of things, or whether it's through a training module where you feel you're actually over there and standing in the space, or whether it's a product that you're purchasing by feeling that you are in a place that's compelling you to understand the product better. So I mean, whatever these experiences are currently happening only in the real world, but also there's a virtual world. The internet is growing to accommodate all of these other things, and I think that vision is what aligned a lot of people along our journey.